everyone, my name is Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. This section of the billing and coding courses has to do with family payment options. There's numerous ways you can get paid for your midwifery services. You can get paid by cash, you can get paid by credit card, insurance reimbursement, flex spending accounts, health savings accounts. So we're going to go into details every aspect of the ways a family can pay you. Cash is by far the simplest and the lowest administration overhead. Depending on the population you serve, if you have a religious organization, you have an Amish Mennonite community you're serving, that they may have a community-based insurance reimbursement, they'll pay you cash, you give them a receipt, and then they take care of it within their community. So it's by far the simplest. You're going to have very little outstanding balances when you pay cash up front and have in your agreements that the services won't be continued to rendered if you're not being paid. It is the hardest for a typical family since most people don't have much for a savings account in place and planning ahead. Our typical healthcare system is used to sending a bill after insurance, and so families are accustomed to paying an outstanding balance on payment plans, scattered bills coming from different labs, from facilities, from providers, with the codes on it in a statement. So it's not as common. They're not used to midwifery care being a cash service if they can go see an obstetrician in a hospital and pay for their care later. With rising healthcare costs, there's a lot of barriers to practicing and not accepting insurance coverage, especially with the Affordable Care Act. Many people are dependent on in-network providers covering their maternity services 100%, even if their deductible hasn't been met. So it is hard to choose. I've done many consults where everything will be paid 100% in the hospital, but they'd have to pay cash, non-covered service out of network with their insurance plan, and it makes it a hard decision. People have to really want your midwifery care, your services. The value has to be really high for them to pay thousands of dollars more for one choice over another. Cash discounted fee schedules, if you pay them in full by 32 weeks, is a really nice option. You can choose to do payment plans. Deposit versus an estimated responsibility. There is a big difference. If you have in your financial agreement that it's a deposit, you really can't do anything with that money until you're done with your insurance processing. Versus if you have it written as a patient estimated responsibility that they're going to pay now, then they'll get reimbursed after the insurance plan processes. Credit cards, they're easier for most families than cash. People can put things on a card and they'll worry about paying the payment plan, the interest with their credit card company. There's a lot of great nationwide health credit card payment plans out there that are very low interest rates. It is hard for midwives to get registered versus physicians on those companies, but it is an option you can look into. I know a lot of dentists will use it. It makes your care a little more accessible. There is an overhead cost of 3 to 5% processing fee, but depending on which vendor company you use, you can choose to pass that overhead cost onto your family, part of your financial agreement, or you make your fee schedule accordingly so that that processing fee, knowing how many families will pay cash, credit card, insurance reimbursement, especially if you're having them do an estimated responsibility of $3,000–4,000, and then you have to give all that back, you still get charged that 3 to 5% processing fee. So you just have to think about what options are best for you. Different possible vendors that you can use depending on the size of your practice. PayPal, you can send an invoice. QuickBooks, you can send an invoice. Square, if you have an electronic health system that has your financials accounting, you can automatically send statements out, put together different fee schedules within the system. You can easily set up on a credit card monthly payment plans, so it makes it simple for you as the practice runner just to set up an auto pay within a system until the balance is paid off in full. You're less likely to have outstanding balances after your insurance claims process because people are more likely to pay a few $100s on a credit card versus they have to have the cash or a check that they have to have the funds easily available versus a credit card they can worry about later. Insurance payments are the preferred method by most families, especially if you're in network with their insurance plan. Choosing you over an obstetrician wouldn't be such a difficult situation when you're talking about finances. It is a lot harder if you're out of network and there's no out of network covered services for your practice with their insurance plan. It makes it a harder decision. You get paid after the services are rendered versus ahead of time. You have to do the claim processing depending on the route you want to do it. You can do paper, you can do it on the site of the insurance company, you can hire an outsourced vendor that does your insurance processing for you. You can have an electronic medical record system that does the billing part of it. Smaller claims like an office visit are paid pretty quickly after the claim is submitted, just a couple weeks. The bigger the claim is, the bigger the charges, the longer it can take. The more appeals you have to do, the more documentation. I can remember 3, 4, 5, 6 times I'm appealing to try to get paid for things. And the longer the outstanding balance is there, the less likely you are to get the families to pay it. So it is important to be prompt with your insurance processing, following up with things closely, and then sending the families an outstanding balance as claims come through versus waiting till the very end. Everybody is different how they run things. I found the best method for practices is to do an estimated cost for families of what they're going to pay. They pay that portion up front, and then you process your insurance payments, and then you figure out if there's any refund back to the family or if they still have a little bit of a balance left to be paid. Health saving accounts are by far my favorite. It's a type of savings account that lets you set aside money that's pre-tax before your paycheck, but similar to when you pay for your insurance premiums, you're paying for your taxes, your contributions. It's easy to access for patients. You just keep the receipts. So if you get that rare audit from the government to confirm that it's being used for medical expenses, but you can have it in any bank, and you get a checking account. You can have it with a credit card. So it's your money that you're directly managing versus a flex spending account your employer manages, and you have to submit the request for reimbursement there. So it's got multiple purposes. Health savings accounts are by far my favorite because healthcare is very, very expensive, and this is a great way for you to pay pre-tax money. You haven't gotten a third of it taken away from the government yet, and it rolls over every year. So you're able to start creating a savings account for your long-term retirement. If you have a young, healthy family and you're contributing to this year after year after year and not using it, it'll really add up as a nice savings account for tax-free medical expenses in and out. Families have to have a high deductible insurance plan to be able to get a health savings account. There's no rule of how you have to contribute the money into your savings account. You can do a max contribution one time at the end of the year. You can do it monthly, a little bit at a time, as an auto transfer out of your account. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So when they say a high deductible health plan, that has to do with the minimum deductible level. So in 2020, $1,400 for an individual or $2,800 for the entire family. And typically that health plan only covers preventative services before the deductible, which is typical with the Health Affordable Care Act. In 2020, the contributions that a person can maximum do for, if you have a self-only coverage, it's $3,550. If you have a family coverage, $7,100. So our families, we really try to take advantage of getting that higher deductible level, because then it gets you a lower cost. Especially being a private practice and doing my own health insurance, I would rather have my own choices of what insurance and have more for an emergency and account of health insurance coverage, and then contribute as much as I can to those health savings account and let it roll over year after year. These funds can be used to pay for certain medical expenses. If you're married, your dependents, you can use it for prescriptions, you can use it for medical supplies, you can use it co-pays, deductibles. You can't use it to directly pay for your insurance premiums. but it is a great way to pay for your direct midwifery care from a patient. They've now got tax-free money that they've been saving up a little at a time, and they can pay you with that. So it's like that health savings account specific for midwifery services and non-covered services with their plan. There's many things they can do with the health savings account. If it's growing and growing, you can keep it in a savings account at 0% interest, or you can reinvest it into other things. So the example I like to give, you have $35,000 in there after 5 years, because every year you can put $7,000. And if you have a super healthy family, that money can be reinvested. You could buy real estate. You could get a business started. You can invest in something and grow that money faster to take care of medical expenses when you get into retirement. So it's a great, great option for families for long-term savings, particularly medical. Spending accounts are another great option, especially if your employer is the one contributing most of the funds into that account. The downsides with the flex spending account is your employee holds the money. It typically doesn't roll over year by year. You have to estimate how much money you want to put in. And if you put too much in, it's one of those you lose it kind of thing. So you feel a little pressure. I know a lot of people with flex spending accounts, they estimate it too high. And at the end of the year, they're just buying random medical supplements and things just to get that money drained out of the account. So it is similar to a health savings account because it is tax-free money in, and then it's tax-free money out for medical expenses. You don't pay any taxes. The employers can contribute. It can be you the entire time. You just have to have a discussion. And then you have to submit a claim that's showing you paid for these expenses to your employer, and then they will reimburse you for it, versus a health savings account. It's your own savings account that you get. So there's a few more steps to it. The limit is a lot lower. You can only put in per year $2,650 versus if you have a family with a health savings account, you can put in $7,100. You can put these in. It's similar to a health savings account. You can use it for covered medical expenses, tax-free in and out. It's just the submission of those are a little bit different. So still medical supplies, still medications, prescriptions, copays, deductibles, outstanding medical balances. The only difference is with a flex spending account, your employer may offer 2 options, but they don't have to. You get a grace period of a little bit extra time that you can use that money out of your account. And you're allowed to carry over up to $500 per year. To me, if I had to choose between a flex spending account and a health savings account, I would pick a health savings account hands down. But as far as payments to you, they're gonna, in your practice from a patient, they're going to be the exact same. They're going to be, they get paid. You get paid cash. You give them a receipt, and then they will directly take it out of their health savings account, or they would go to their employer to get reimbursed out of their flex spending account. So there's just 2 options that are really great. So I want everyone to review. You have a cash option, which is the simplest. It's the hardest for a typical family to do. There's the credit card. Families can worry about having interest rates and payment plans with their credit card, but at least then you get paid your portion. The insurance reimbursement is what typically families are expecting from a healthcare practice, especially if they're more used to an obstetrician and a hospital standard of reimbursement and charging. A health savings account is by far my favorite on so many levels for financial planning for myself, and a great way for families to choose a non-covered service that's a medical choice with a health savings and a flex spending account.